everybody. Welcome to The Porch. It is a Volquest baseball podcast where we chat with VFL Luc Lipcius every single week right here on Volquest.com. I was about to say every single Thursday, but with the Thursday series, with the early series these past 2 weeks, we've been dropping it sometime on Wednesdays. So that's, again, kind of the plan here this week as Tennessee is set to take on Florida, the number 3 team in the country, big-time Southeastern Conference Series, and that is on deck this weekend, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. But hey, this is The Porch, and we couldn't do it without our friends Spivey, King, and Spivey LLP. That's Matthew A. Spivey, J. Matt King, and Richard A. Spivey. You got a problem? Let them find a solution for you. That is TN Trial Lawyers. They specialize in criminal defense, family law, personal injury. Examples of that can be DUI, homicide, assaults, car wrecks, accidents, custody, alimony, all that good stuff. They have over 80 years of combined experience. You'll go ahead and give them a call today for a free consultation, 423-245-4185, or you go see them in person at 142 Cherokee Street in Kingsport, Tennessee. A big thank you to Spivey, King, and Spivey, LLP, for making our coverage here on The Porch possible. Okay, so where are we right now? Well, Tennessee is 21-8. Let me make sure that's correct. Tennessee is 21-8 on the season, 4-5 in Southeastern Conference play, dropped 2 on the road at number 1 LSU. And you guys have probably heard me talk about this on the Volquest podcast earlier this week, and maybe even on my podcast, Locked On Vols. You can check it out on YouTube as well. And that was really just kind of like, especially on Thursday and a little bit of Friday as well. That was like a minor league baseball series, if you will, those couple of games. You had 2 big leaguers on the mound, and Paul Skeens going at it with Chase Dollander. And Chase was not his best. He worked himself into countless jams, but got himself out for the most part. Gave up 2 runs in 4 2/3, handed the ball over with Tennessee a chance to win that baseball game. And again, prospect Dollander, prospect Skeens, prospect Dylan Cruz. It was all over the place. And then you hand the ball over to Seth Halverson, who will be in Major League Baseball, at least in the organization, again in the future as well. So it was really, really cool to see all that unfold on Thursday. And then on Friday, you have Chase Burns, who's going to be a high draft pick in 2024. And of course, you've got Tommy White, Dylan Cruz, Trey Morgan, Gavin Dugas, who is just a Tennessee killer apparently, Brady Neal, the freshman catcher as well. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about LSU's order, but I say all that to, let's remember that this is the best hitting team in America right now. This is the best offense in America right now. And sure, it's frustrating. A couple of plays here and there, and Tennessee could have walked away with a series win. Heck, maybe even walked away with a series sweep, but you don't win on ifs and buts, right? Shoulda, coulda, woulda. And you kind of are who you are. And Tennessee right now is a team that is talented, is a team that is good. I wrote my 3-2-1 earlier this week, or maybe it was the Monday night chat, I can't remember, but something I learned from Tennessee is Tennessee can beat anybody in the country. Tennessee can win any series in the country. And I did learn that against LSU, even though Tennessee didn't win that series. And I don't think I would have said that a couple weeks ago. It's not like Tennessee has all of a sudden flipped the switch in terms of fixing all of its little mistakes. Again, defense, what are we doing at some points in those games, right? Base running mistakes, and then hitting a home run right behind it, which could have tied the ball game in game 2 of that series. Like, what are you doing? I know Dylan Dreiling, who's got so much potential and says a lot of good things for Tennessee so far, making a quote-unquote freshman mistake, getting picked off first base. But, we're halfway through the season right now. Freshmen aren't freshmen anymore, okay? So it's not like Tennessee has erased all of its warts, if you will. But Tennessee's getting better. The at-bats are getting better. The lineup is getting deeper. You have some options, lineup flexibility, moving Zane Denton down to the bottom third of the order. I love that. I wish he'd stay right there. Guys are stepping up. Griffin Merritt is in the midst of a horrific slump right now. I think I put the totals in maybe one of my last 4 quick takes of that series, or maybe it was a 3-2-1. But whatever the case is, he's got like 7 games hitless, 20 at-bats hitless, 2 of his last 30. It's bad right now, and that's a bat that Tennessee is counting on. But Hunter Hensley and Christian Scott have stepped up in the absence of Griffin Merritt, who's not in the lineup the last 2 games of that series, as well as Kavaris Tears, who can't run the outfield right now, coming back from a hamstring injury. Tony said on Wednesday that he's probably still a week away from running, and if he would have reached base safely in those two pinch hit opportunities over the weekend, that they would have pinch ran for him, but potentially he could maybe run the bases, but he's still probably a week away from running, but he's making his way back, and you want Kavares Tears to get back for you big time, right? But you've got Hunter Inslee stepping up. He's becoming an everyday player. You've got Christian Scott stepping up and becoming an everyday player. You had Kyle Booker step up in a major way on Saturday's game 3. And I'm going to go ahead and say this right now. I've probably already done it twice. If I say Sunday in reference to last weekend, it's Saturday. These Thursday, Friday, Saturday series are throwing me off a little bit. But, Kyle Booker stepped up, man. He was huge. Made a couple plays in the outfield, got the ball back in a hurry. At the plate, he had 3 hits on Saturday. I mean, he was big. And so, those guys stepping up. So Tennessee's getting production from guys that you wouldn't think would be big-time contributors at this point in the season, and that's big. As I mentioned, the at-bats are getting a little bit longer. They're getting a little bit more calculated, and that's good to see as more guys become every single day players. So I might not have said that Tennessee could beat anybody in the country or win any series in the country a couple weeks ago, but I do think that Tennessee can do that now. Now, that doesn't mean that it will. That doesn't mean that it's going to come out of this gauntlet stretch of LSU, Florida, at Arkansas, Vanderbilt, with a good record, right? I mean, you want to win a couple of these series, right? I mean, it's a great opportunity this weekend against Florida to win this series at home, and there's a great opportunity to get after that starting pitching. I'll get to that here in a moment, but it wasn't always pretty at times. Tennessee is not going to be the cleanest team defensively. It's just not. The one error and the one boneheaded play by Christian Moore at second base in the 8th inning of Thursday's game, it's just inexcusable in my opinion. And I understand, even if you get out of that and you don't give up those 3 runs, you go to the 9th inning, it's 2-2, right? So I get that. So who's to say if Tennessee would have won that game? But Tennessee handed that game to LSU on a silver platter. LSU's best team in the country right now. They don't need your help. And Tennessee handed it to them because of the drop flip to first base from Blake Burke. Seth Howerson just drops at the first base bag. I mean, that gets you out of the inning. That's bad because Halvey pitched really, really well in relief. And then Christian Moore, I know some of us have gone back and forth a little bit in the game threads, and that's fine. Everybody has, their opinion. But the fact of the matter is, you field that ball cleanly with a speedy runner on the base pass, you throw to first base, and you're out. It's out. You're out of the inning. There's no reason to try and tag the base runner there. Absolutely no reason. And just because it does not go down as an error in the scorebook does not mean that was a horrific play because, again, in my opinion, a horrific play could have got you out of the inning. So Chase Dollander does not give you his best stuff, but still gives you a chance to win that baseball game. Chase Burns comes in, and, the defense wasn't great behind him either, but, man, Chase Burns just kept giving extra base hit after extra base hit after extra base hit. And that's kind of been a theme so far in SEC play, which is not great. It's not great. And again, defensively, miscues behind him. Base running with Dylan Drowland that I already mentioned, and then Hunter Inslee comes up behind him. Could have been a tie ball game at that point. And that stuff can change the course of a ball game because Chase Burns, I mean, again, he had 7 strikeouts to 1 walk in that outing, and he only went 3 innings. It's like when LSU made contact, they made him pay. And so it's just unfortunate. We need this series to be played. We need Chase Burns to make his start on Friday. I understand he's the Saturday starter, the number 2 starter for Tennessee, but we need some consistency for Chase Dollander. Making back-to-back Saturday starts, I think, would be big, for Chase Burns. And so we'll see if Chase Burns can bounce back. He's going to get the ball, and Tennessee needs him to bounce back because the ERAs in Southeastern Conference play for Dollander and for Burns have not been what they need to be. It's, again, I'm not going to overreact here, and we'll talk to Luke about this here in a little bit in a moment, but the starting pitching, it's not horrible. It's certainly not elite where it was last year, but it's not good enough, in my opinion. And I think you would agree. Those guys are so talented, Beam included, so talented, and bring so much to the table. And I'm not counting those guys out yet because I've seen them do incredible stuff. But need to start picking it up a little bit. When your back's against the wall like it was on Saturday coming out in game 3 there, and I thought Drew Beam made some big outs, which is big. But, again, his error led to a 4-run inning. An error by Blake Burke allowed a run to come in and score. Again, it's just it's been really ugly at times, but 10 runs. We go to Saturday now. 10 runs in the first 2 innings there. I mean, Tennessee was like, hey, we're not going to go home empty-handed, right? I mean, Tennessee came out and just pounded the baseball, and it was really, really good to see. So props to Tennessee for winning Game 3. In a big way, too. Exclamation point, if you will. I still wish Beam would have went longer in this game because 4 2/3, 3 innings, and 4 1/3, I believe, is what the 3 starters went into the game. They need to go longer, in my opinion. And hats off to Seth Halverson. Hats off to Andrew Lindsey, because they saved that bullpen against the best hitting lineup in America, top to bottom, right now. Things can change, but right now. So props to those guys. Tennessee's bullpen was really good. And how about Xander? Xander stealing, 4 outs? No, Xander stealing 7 outs, whatever it was. I think he went, no, that was, sorry, I'm getting my box scores mixed up. That was Camden Sewell that went 2 2/3. Yeah, I think Xander pitched a little over an inning, got 4 outs for you. That was huge to bridge that gap, to get it to Camden Sewell, to take you almost the rest of the way, because Camden Sewell needs to get his arm stretched out, because spot starts are coming up, right? You're about to get to that point in the season. We're halfway through, and you're going to need some spot starts here and there to get you to the finish line. And of course, in tournament play and then regional play and super regionals, if you make it all that far and everything, Camden's going to be one of those guys that'll get the ball, as could Seth Halverson, as could Andrew Lindsey. You're in a good position. But I do think Tennessee's getting better. It's got to stop shooting itself in the foot. It's got to stop shooting itself in the foot, and it could be great. So the slate doesn't get any easier, right? You've got, man, oh man, you got Florida coming to town, and it's a big time matchup. I think that there's some parallels with Florida's starting pitching and Tennessee's starting pitching right now. I think all 3 of these guys are really, really good. Now, Tennessee starters have proven it more, but I think Brandon Sproat, I think Hurston Waldrop, who came over from Southern Miss, was an All-American last year. And, of course, Jack Cogleon has been fantastic this year, both at the plate and on the mound. And so I think for Tennessee, if you can get the Florida starters early and really rough them up a bit, all 3 of those guys have not been very good in Southeastern Conference play. Let's look at this. Sprout, the number 1 starter, the guy that's going to start on Thursday. He threw a complete game, 1-hitter, and a shutout over Alabama back on March 16th. But in his last 2 starts in SEC play, let's see here, he has allowed 13 runs and 6 2/3. That's not great. That's opportunity, if you will. Waldrop, his last, let's see here, he's allowed 6 runs across 5 innings. Nope, hold on. He's not been good to end SEC or here recently in SEC play as well. He's been tagged for 6 runs across 5 innings and a couple starts ago, but he bounced back in his last start against Auburn with 6 inning, 3-run showcase against the Tigers. He had double-digit strikeouts numbers in 3 of his 7 starts this season, and punched out 9 2 weeks ago against Ole Miss. But that's a game that he lost, but he did bounce back anyway. So he's had his ups and downs in SEC play. Sorry, it took me a little while to get there. And then, Cogleon, who's just leading the nation with home runs at the plate right now. He's got a 3-0 record, 4.18 ERA, the best ERA amongst their starters. His strikeout to walk ratio is not great, 30 strikeouts, 21 walks, and his production has dipped in SEC play, allowing 11 runs across 12 innings in league play. See, that was much smoother when I find the stats and I recite it when it's right in front of my face. So I do think there's opportunity there for Tennessee to get on these starters early. I really, really do. But look at them at the plate. Now, we're talking about LSU being really, really good at the plate. Gosh, Florida is fantastic at the plate as well. So you got Florida and Jack Cogleon, who's fantastic, leading the nation with 18 home runs in 29 games. He's leading the team. He's second on the team with a 403 average. Leads the team with 46 RBI. He's leading the team with 50 hits. He's doubled 8 times. He's tripled twice. He's doing a little bit of everything. He plays first base. When he pitches, he'll be the DH. So you're not moving that bat out of that number 3 hole in the lineup. A cleanup hitter, Josh Rivera, arguably the best hitter on the team right now. It's a really good surprise for the junior. He leads the team with a 411 batting average in 30 games. He has 11 home runs. He's walked 21 times, struck out just 13 times on the year, and he has a team-high 43 runs scored. He's also stolen 10 bases in 11 tries. So he's really their base stealer as well when he gets on. That's the cleanup hitter, shortstop, Josh Rivera. And then the guy that everybody was talking about preseason, and still is because he's still a fantastic player. He's having a really, really good year, just kind of getting overshadowed by his teammates, right? He's an MLB prospect. He's right around there with Chase Dollander and Paul Skeens and Dylan Cruz. It's Wyatt Langford. He missed a little bit of time in March, but he's come back. He's hitting .402 in 23 games. He has 8 home runs, 21 RBI, leads the team with 10 doubles. He has 3 triples. He also has 26 walks in 23 games. Professional hitter, that being Wyatt Langford, the outfielder. So, this team is really, really solid. And then a catcher. I don't even know how to say his last name. I apologize, guys. I know we played last year. BT Rapelli, maybe? Anyway, he was a preseason all-conference selection at catcher. He's got 34 RBI. He's hitting .312 in 30 games. And when he's not behind the plate, he is the team's designated hitter. So they find a way to get their best bats in the order on a daily basis. This is a really, really good offensive team in Florida. They only have a couple losses on the season, 7 overall. They've dropped 1 game to Auburn, 5 overall. They've dropped 1 game to Auburn, 1 game to Alabama. They've also lost a game to Miami, Jacksonville, and South Florida. Again, this is Florida, who was picked to finish second in the East behind Tennessee, did get 1 vote to win the conference, and Florida is a team with Florida's a team with a 25-5 record, 7-2 in Southeastern Conference play. So, a big-time series coming up for Tennessee, hosting Florida in a weekend where it's gonna be a wet one, right? I mean, the forecast, you know how it changes a little bit all the time, but be prepared if you're going to the games. Times could shift a little bit, delays. Hopefully not. Hopefully we'll get them in because Tennessee needs to play this series at home this weekend for sure. They will not play on Easter Sunday. You can't just add a game to the series even though it starts on Thursday. So, we'll see what happens. But a big one at Lindsey Nelson Stadium, and Tennessee needs to win this series, and I think it can. I really, really do think it can. We got Luc Lipcius coming up next here. I'm going to get a couple of reads and say thank you to our proud sponsors first. Spivey, King & Spivey, LLP, Matthew A. Spivey, J. Matt King, Richard A. Spivey. Their mission statement, hey, if you got a problem, they're going to find a solution for you. That's T and Trial Lawyers, specializing in criminal defense, family law and personal injury, DUI, homicide, assault. They represent cases in custody, alimony, parental rights, or accidents such as car wrecks. They have over 80 years of combined experience. Spivey, King & Spivey, LLP provides representation throughout the states and federal courts in Northeast Tennessee. The firm has a vast amount of trial experience. Practice has been in place for 43 years with this partnership with those 3 guys since 2012, while also having partners who are energized for today's modern legal demands. Practicing primarily in Northeast Tennessee, the Tri-Cities of Sullivan County, as well as Hawkins County, Washington counties, and surrounding areas, the firm has won multiple awards with attorneys who are rated by super lawyers in the Mid-South and real trial experience. Whether you are injured in a car accident, need divorce, help with custody of your children, or have been accused of a crime, we are here to help. That is Spivey, King & Spivey, LLP. Go see them in person in Kingsport, Tennessee at 142 Cherokee Street. Give them a call today for a free consultation. That is 423-245-4185, 423-245-4185 for a free consultation, or you can always visit them on their website at Spivey, King & Spivey, LLP.com. All right, so we're talking baseball here. March Madness just wrapped up, but the fun never stops at MyBookie. Time for you to go ahead and shoot your shot. It's not too late by visiting MyBookie.com. Whether you're filling out brackets during March Madness or playing those weekly blackjack tournaments, you can always turn your game day into payday over at MyBookie. Getting started with MyBookie is really simple. Visit the website online, make your first deposit, and use the promo code Volquest to claim an exclusive deposits for your bonus. That's promo code Volquest, VOLQUEST, to claim some extra money on top of your initial deposit. With hundreds of thousands of prizes for March Madness and weekly blackjack tournaments, you can turn game day into payday with MyBookie. Bet anytime, anywhere, anything with MyBookie. Luc Lipcius coming up next as you listen to The Porch. Luke, Tennessee drops 2 of 3 at LSU last weekend, but I thought there was a lot of positive takeaways from that series. Right now, LSU is the best team in the country. We'll see where things stand in a couple weeks, but that lineup is really, really challenging. Tennessee exploded for 10 runs in the first 2 innings in Game 3 on Saturday. Won that with a football score, low-scoring football game, 14-7. Kind of what were your takeaways from Tennessee at LSU last weekend, knowing that if a couple of plays went differently, maybe Tennessee would have won that series or maybe even swept? It was that close.
Yeah, well, the first thing that comes to mind is, I mean, it must have been tornadoing out there because we could not catch a pop-up to save our lives. I think that is a segue into the defense that we've been playing. And looking at the stats, I believe we're bottom third of the SEC in defense, and that's overall defense, whereas strictly SEC defense, I think we're even worse. So you see there's plenty of room to clean it up. And I think the main takeaway also from this weekend is that we played well. I would say there is nothing wrong with what happened this weekend. You hold the best team in the nation 2-2 going into the bottom of the 8th. And if it were not for a couple miscues, then we have a chance to go win it in the 9th. That's what you want to see, especially on a Friday night. Saturday, the same thing, played them really well. We saw some guys take some really good cuts. Again, only giving up 6. And then Sunday, we showed what we could do, especially when the other pitcher is giving us so much room to work with. And so I think that this weekend was a win, and they just got to clean up the defense and the mental mistakes. You see that in the 8th, that error happened, and you're like, okay, something's brewing. When Simo decides to try to tag the guy instead of going straight to first, that's when as a baseball player, it's over. Something bad is going to happen. And so, again, I think that this weekend really showed that we are a good team. We can compete at a very high level, and that we have some room to grow as well, so we can get better.
I want to ask you about one of those plays in particular. Obviously, you just referenced the Moore play, and I think you and I are both in agreement that you just take the easy out at first, you're out of the inning. Halvey just drops it. It's unfortunate, but you literally just drop it. But I think it was the 4th double, right? You got to score it as a double because you can't score it as an error in Game 2 in that 2nd inning or whatever it was for Chase Burns. And it's that pop-up that's right in the middle of the infield, right over the pitcher's mound. As an infielder, okay, kind of walk me through this. Whose job is it to go and get that ball and take ownership?
So with a ball like that that's directly in the middle of the infield, it's whoever calls it the loudest, because you want to make sure that whoever has the best read on it catches it. And so it looked like the 2 guys on the right-hand side of the infield, that's Simo and Burke, they heard Zane call it, and they just gave up. When in reality, they should know the wind. They should know that the ball's hit high enough, it's probably going to come back. That's one of the ones that you can practice as much as you want in practice, but when it comes to the game, you just don't know how it's going to be. And so Zane called it early. I like that. Shows some initiative. But in reality, when you see Zane coming full steam over, trying to go across the pitcher's mound, you see the ball coming to you. I'd like to see probably Simo take that ball and end up with not another double in that inning. But yeah, that is a tough one. There's no way Burns should have tried to catch that. But then also you see, and talking with some of the guys, that some people are timid to go for balls. Maui hasn't been very good at catching pop-ups. Zane's had a little struggle. And so it's a confidence thing. And when you have plays that keep on compounding like that, the confidence does not build. It actually goes down. So I think that's one of the things that B's going to stress in practice, make sure that they got it locked, communication, and just taking control and making sure that you secure the ball, know what the wind's doing, all that good stuff.
I think it's funny because Christian Moore is at points in times, man, he's taking ownership and trying to catch balls that are not his.
Exactly.
And again, every play's different. And you're right. I mean, if Zane's out there calling it, you let it go and everything. And I know it's easy to sit here and criticize, but I mean that it tailed there at the end. I mean, it looked like it was right over the mound, and then it tailed over at the very end. It's just
so that's one of those balls that when it's hit, it's got so much backspin, and then the wind is also pushing it that it almost hits a gust and zooms down and over. So, it's a tough one.
Yeah, it is no doubt. Starting pitching. You can break it down game by game if you want. I thought, just my thoughts, Chase Dolander didn't have his best stuff whatsoever, but credit to him for working himself out of so many jams, stranding runners at third and at second base to get outs, allowing just the one run or whatever. Handed the ball off to Seth Halverson with Tennessee an opportunity to win the game. I thought that was good. Chase Burns, I thought he did some things. I mean, I thought he created a lot of swings and misses, but man, when LSU made contact, they just made him pay and just pounded him for extra bases a little bit. And then Drew Beam, I thought on Saturday, came out and got some big outs early, but I thought, the error by, I believe it was Burke in that or earlier in the game, and then his own error just kind of was his own downfall. So I wouldn't say the pitching was horrible. I would say Burns was not good enough to win on Friday. Doe probably was, even though he didn't have his best stuff. And, Saturday was kind of a weird day because you had all those runs of support. I just feel like those guys obviously need to last a little longer into the games. What do you think?
So I think you hit the nail on the head. With Dolly, it almost seems like he was trying to get himself into tough situations just so he could pitch himself out. He was around the zone. He was walking guys, which is uncharacteristic of him. I think he might be in his head and not going straight after guys because he has been getting hit around. It's one of those things that you let Frank do his thing, calm him down, get the confidence back because the stuff is there. I know that he didn't have as many strikeouts as normal or whatever. But like you said, he pitched a poor game and still only gave up 2 earned runs. That's
LSU.
Good. Yeah, to LSU. That's great when you can have an off day and still not have it just completely implode. And then I thought Halverson looked like a Friday guy coming in. I think that is the ideal situation on Friday, is to have Dolly go, a little more than 4 2/3, maybe 6 or 7, and then have Halvey come and shut the door. And Halvey looked incredible, didn't give up an earned run, pumping the fastball up to 98 with that turbo sink. And so you got dogs who are pitching well, but just around or outside of the zone too much for Dolly, especially with his power stuff. Now Burns, what he's doing is just weird because his stuff is there. You still see the strikeout numbers are really high, which means he has swing and miss stuff. What I've noticed is when he throws his fastball, it almost seems like it's either 3 balls off the plate, so not even really close, or it's catching way too much white. And so not saying that he needs to nibble, but just figure out how to, put it a little bit farther away from the middle of the plate with the fastball. And then Saturday, you could see his slider was up the entire game, the entire time he was out there. Most of the times it was out of the zone. And then when it was in the zone, it seemed like it was just right there, belt high, easy to hit. And so for him, it might just be a confidence thing. Again, let Frank do his thing, get him back to his zone. I also thought Lindsey pitched really well that game coming in relief. But then as far as Beam goes, like you said, pretty steady. When you get that big of a lead, maybe there's a little bit of, I got this, or it could be, hey, we got this lead, we can't lose it. Either way, maybe a little bit of tension because he does not usually make fielding errors as a pitcher. He's very steadfast in that way. But like you said, there's room to grow, little tweaks to make, for every single guy. But as far as not giving up 10 spots, whatever, it's not the worst thing. It's if they're already pitching as best as they can right now, that's a bad thing. Having room to grow is a good thing.
So you kind of answered my question right there, and I'm not worried about those 3 guys because what we saw last year, that's the pinnacle. We know what they can do. And it's not fair to hold them to that standard every single start out there. I get that. It's baseball. But in 3 SEC series, the starting pitching has not been up to the standard that you're used to, right? But it's just you need more of a sample size. You need to kind of work yourself out of it. No reason whatsoever to panic right now with those 3 guys, correct?
Correct, yeah. An interesting note, too, is from the people I've been talking to, apparently Missouri and A&M both are signs that were not signs per se. They were getting the pitches based on what the pitcher was doing. And so I think that we'll see them work that kink out as well, hopefully, because, Florida's got quite a good lineup.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt about it. Again, let's kind of look at that lineup. One of the hottest and best hitters in college baseball right now, Jack Caglianone. He's fantastic. He's obviously he's their number 3 starter as well. So the two-way capabilities is really good. 18 home runs, leading the nation. He's hitting over 400. It's another Dylan Cruz out there right now, if you will. But not only him, you got Wyatt Langford, who's a prospect. You've got Josh Rivera, the shortstop, who's doing really well. They have a great hitting catcher. It's just another SEC series, right? It's another loaded offensive lineup for the Florida Gators this weekend.
That's exactly correct. I would compare them to another another LSU lineup with a little bit more pop. I know that sounds even scarier, but you just got 1 through 9 guys that can rake, especially in that top first 5 people. Josh Rivera is doing a lot better than he did last year. Wyatt Langford, so steady and good, can drive the ball. Jack Caglianone is just a beast. What he's doing is unheard of, pitching and hitting. He's looking like a college baseball Shohei. And so what he's doing is incredible. But again, yes, it's another SEC series. They already faced the top of the top. So they can have confidence going in to this series that they've already been to the top. They did fine. Just lock it in and do what they do. There's going to be some balls hit out of the park. That's just the nature of it. But I don't think it's anything to freak out about,
So when I look at Florida's starters, and I said this earlier in the show, I feel like Tennessee's best opportunity to, get off on the right foot and everything is to get after the starters, Obviously you see ball when a hit ball. You look at Brandon Sproat, who 4-1, 5.45 ERA. He struggled his last 2 SEC starts. Hurston Waltrip, who was an All-American at Southern Miss last year, he's got a 4.74 ERA, and he's been a little up and down in SEC play. And then Jack Caglianone has got a 4.18 ERA, the lowest of the starters, but he too has really struggled in SEC play. I feel like Tennessee's lineup, who it's becoming deeper. They have better at bats now in recent weeks. I feel like it's a good opportunity. There's some parallels there because those guys are some dogs and they can pitch. Kind of like Tennessee right now. We know that Tennessee has some dogs and they can pitch and they're going to be in the big leagues, but maybe not pitching up to the standard right now. I feel like Tennessee's offense, a great opportunity to jump out early in games and really set the tone against Florida.
Yeah, so the stuff is there. You got Sproat, who can run it up to what seems like 100, Waldrip 98 or whatever it is, and then Caglianone, of course, 98. What you see is them getting behind in counts, them not pitching ahead. So like you said, we have a chance to get after them and maybe rattle them a little bit. I remember facing Sproat last year, and it seemed fairly easy to get in his head. A couple of hits here and there, he walks a guy, and then he's done for. Waldrip, not as familiar with, of course, playing over at Southern Miss. But again, you see the ERA's up. I'm guessing he's leaving pitches over the middle. And then Caglianone, the last 2 games that I've seen from him, a lot of walks. And so I think that our hitters are going to stress this week is being disciplined, not chasing. Because if we start chasing, that's where they're going to have success. But other teams you see against them, when they don't chase, they knock them around. And so, like you said, our guys putting together better ABs. It's nothing but good news for the Vols this weekend. Just hold to their own, don't chase, and they'll be just fine.
30 strikeouts for Caglianone, 21 walks so far this season. It's not what you want, certainly not what he wants. So, yeah, take advantage of that. All right, it's SEC baseball, man. You go from number 1 LSU, come back home, number 3 Florida. You go on the road to top 10 Arkansas, come back to Vanderbilt. As a player, is it just really just a one day at a time mentality? I mean, I feel like it's got to be, because if you look ahead to anything, you can't afford to do that, or you'll get smacked in the face on that current game.
Oh, 100%. You are looking at the game that you are playing that day, the practice you're doing that day. There's nothing else that matters. And V is so good at preaching that just play in the moment, don't look ahead. But this stretch of elite teams, I think Arkansas is 6, maybe?
Yeah, I
5
think so.
or 6. So we're going from 1, 3, 6, and then 4. And that's exactly what you look for in the SEC when you come to play SEC ball. So they're they're getting what they came for. And so I know they're excited to see what they can do and maybe prove to those who've been doubting them, and then maybe even solidify to those who have been backing them. But yeah, it's really just take it one game at a time. You know, you've got quite the competition ahead of you. And yeah, I'm really excited for this stretch. I think everyone's had this stretch penciled in on the calendars.
Yeah, no doubt. It's going to be a good one. Tennessee will get going with Florida tomorrow, Thursday, for the 8 o'clock start time. All three of these games, I mean, weather's going to be pending because weather's going to be a complete chaotic just mess this weekend. But you got ESPNU on Thursday. I think you're the SEC Network on Friday, and then ESPN2 on Saturday. So a good opportunity. I do want to ask you one more question, kind of out the door here. First baseman to first baseman, Blake Burke got dropped from the order a little bit, worked out a little bit well, which is good. See him get a couple of hits. What are you seeing from Blake Burke right now? Do you think it was good for him to get moved down? And do you see him maybe going back up to the 3-hole? Because when he's hitting, I think he's the best, he might be one of the better 3-hole hitters in the conference.
Yeah, so what I see from him is probably his first struggle as a college baseball player. Even last year, it didn't seem like he slumped. And so what he's doing right now, we can call him maybe a little mini slump. His average is still up there around 330 or whatever it is. But so what V likes to do is drop those guys, maybe take a little bit of the pressure off of them because he is still young, which people tend to forget because he's just so good. And so what I think we'll see happen is get his confidence back. With him lower in the order, we did just fine. Get his confidence back, and then we'll see him work his way up. But even he was hitting in the 5-hole, correct?
Yeah.
That's still a good RBI spot, still getting on, driving guys in. And so it's nothing for him to be worried about. It's just, take the pressure off, get back to your swing and do your thing.
Hey, Zane Denton should never come out of the bottom of the order, right? I mean, when he's hitting 7 or 9, I mean, he's raking. And then it's a small sample size, but when you go back to 4, it's like 0 for 3, 0 for 4. But when he's hitting 7 or 9, boy, he's really come alive.
Yeah, very, very true. And they're going to do what's best for the order for that game. I don't mind him in either spot, even though we've seen struggles from the 4-hole. I just think he's so good at driving guys in that it's hard to take him out of that 4-hole. But it's also hard to count out the success he's had at the bottom of the order.
You got to love that switch bat as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's cool stuff.
How many, I know I said last thing like 5 minutes ago, how many switch hitters, like real switch hitters, did you kind of see throughout your college career? You were there a while.
Yeah. Not as many. Zane is really the only one that really stands out. Mangum, of course, is kind of the top tier of switch hitters, and what that guy did was just unbelievable. But Zane is up there too. And then after that, you don't really think about switch hitters. They're more just like, random 7 or 8 hole guys, that don't do what Zane does down there. But it's just, you don't see it, especially them producing the way they do. Jim Jarvis, I think, brings up another point. I believe he's a switch hitter for Bama. But just those guys, they don't do what Zane does, and that's what makes him so special.
All right, swear this is the last thing.
Yeah.
Prediction for this weekend. It's going to be tough, but you are playing at home, and I think there's opportunity. Do you like Tennessee winning this series against Florida?
I am so scared to do a prediction. Last time I did a prediction, we got swept. That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. I do think that this is a great weekend for us. We're back at home. We love playing at home. We got Florida coming off of a series that's good for us, but also a lot of room to grow. I think we go 2-1 on the weekend. I'm thinking a Friday dub, and then we'll see what happens the next 2 games. But I'm thinking we win the series, and, we send Florida home a sad team.
I like it, man. It's Luc Lipcius, former Tennessee first baseman, home run champion. Joins us every single week here on the Porch, Volquest.com. Luke, thanks always, man. Appreciate you.
Thanks so much, Eric.
All right, awesome insight there from Luc Lipcius on pretty much the entire game. It's in the batter's box, over on the first base bag, kind of being in the mindset of the pitchers, all that good stuff. Man, it's one of my favorite times of the week talking with him because I learn so much when I talk with him as well, and I hope you do too. That's kind of the point of bringing Luke on here to get that player's perspective. All right, Tennessee, Florida, beginning Thursday, 8 o'clock Eastern, Friday, 7 o'clock Eastern, And Saturday, it'll be 2 o'clock Eastern. Big series coming up for Tennessee. The number 11 Tennessee Volunteers, according to D1 Baseball, and number 3 Florida. That's coming your way, and we'll have all the coverage right here, as always, at Volquest.com. Thank you so much to Spivey King and Spivey LLP. Problem, let them find a solution for you. That is TN Trial Lawyers. Give them a call today for a free consultation. That is 423-245-4185, 423-245-4185 for a free consultation, or visit them online at Spivey King and Spivey LLP.com. Guys, I appreciate it. Thanks so much for joining me here on the porch of Volquest Baseball Podcast.